Hello and welcome to Business Unmuted, a business discussion live on LinkedIn and shared on platforms including YouTube, Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Business Unmuted is sponsored by Virtue BMW, which is part of Gateshead-based Virtue Motors plc. So if you're in the market for a new, used or fleet vehicle, its dealerships are in Stockton, Durham, Sunderland, Malton or York. In the studio with me today is Ian Wardle, Chief Executive of 13 Group, which manages around 34,000 homes in the North East and Yorkshire. Stephen Nicholson is the founder and Managing Director of Nicholson Sons, specialist decorators for heritage properties. And down the line we have Dominic Bohanna, who is founder of the sports supplement startup Santini 7, and Rhiannon Beeson. And Rhiannon is the Commercial Director at cloud software specialist Giacom. Now the Omicron variant has arrived, and what should the reaction of business and government and the public be? Is it time for Plan B? As we're transmitting this on LinkedIn, it's possible the government are giving their views. COVID hasn't stopped many entrepreneurs. Just look at Dominic. But compared to 2020, the private sector business population, the actual number of privately owned businesses, is down. So how can we stimulate entrepreneurs to create businesses? Let's start our discussion about business. We've got an eclectic mix of businesses today, some large, some smaller, some tech, but we'll start with Dominic. Dominic, good to see you. Tell me,
Hi.
You've got into business in this time of change and uncertainty. What's made you do that?
Well, for starters, I didn't forecast when we launched there was going to be a pandemic, that is for sure. We launched on the 28th of January, and I think it was about 6 weeks later the pandemic happened. But it's a case of serious perseverance, really.
It certainly is. You've got the product there. Just hold it up and tell us about it.
Yeah, we're a supplement brand. We've got our Angry Dog whey protein. We've got it in 2, then very short with 3 different flavours. What we've done differently, we've an independent brand. We've formulated our own whey protein ingredients, offer ourselves. Our ethos is minimal ingredients. We've only got 4 ingredients in the whipped vanilla, 5 in the raspberry and 5 in the chocolate.
And you mix it with water or milk? How does it actually work?
Anything you want. Water, milk, coconut water, anything you want. Very clean product, no additives, no natural preservatives. We're a bit of a unique kind of part of the market, and we're slowly but surely getting the traction that we deserve.
And what kind of customer are you aiming at?
Well, because obviously the pandemic happened, the local, your gyms, your wholesalers, probably doing the normal thing at the time, to be trying to get into my local community. And obviously in March, everything shut. So it was a case of either you give up or you kind of go to Plan Z, which obviously what I started doing on LinkedIn was trying to connect with CEOs, managers of elite sports clubs and athletes.
So you're going for the Premier League footballers and the top sports people.
This is what's happened. Yeah, I mean, we are currently getting into Premier League football, the UFC, and obviously at the time we didn't have much option. So we're a product where obviously it's for anybody who's health conscious, your neighbour next door who wants to be healthy, fit, or your elite athlete, and that's the route we've been taking.
I mean, this isn't me, folks. I mean, this shirt is nicely blousy, so you can't see what I really look like. But if I was keen on using it, how would you suggest I use it? Would I take it once a day? Would I take it as part of my exercise routine?
I mean, I have mine, for example, in the morning for my breakfast. You can have it straight after you've done exercise. You can have it as a healthy snack.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a protein supplement, very clean. You can have it in your cereal, your porridge, in a shake, as a milkshake.
Great.
Ice cream. You can literally do anything you want with it.
And how much is it?
These new 900-gram bags, RIP at $29.99. We've got bigger bags that's around about the £47 mark.
And how long will it last, that bag? A week?
These bad boys last quite a long time. You've got a good year and a half on these because, again, it's clean ingredients, no rubbish.
Right.
Keep them in a safe place.
How long will it take you to go through that packet on your regime?
A month.
A month? Great, all right. £30 a month. Okay, that's fine. Okay, and can you buy it online?
Yeah, www.santini7.com. I'll get that in there.
Yes.
Obviously, e-commerce wise, we're doing extremely well. Obviously, business to business.
Okay, well, we've got an e-commerce specialist coming, a software specialist coming on. We'll ask her about that as well. Rhiannon, we'll come to you in a minute. But before we do, Stephen Nicholson, you run a smaller business as well. By the way, you're keen on sports because you're a sponsor and participant in a big boxing club.
Well, yeah, it's a local amateur club. We opened it up just in West Auckland. It's my part-time hobby on a night for my sins, really.
And I know you were boxing last night.
We were boxing last night, had no sleep. Got back about 12 at midnight and brain working overtime over how the lads did with the fights. And,
would you ever buy any of these supplements and use them?
Not me personally, I'm too fat for that. But yeah, certainly for the boxers, yes, they're very good for the boxers. A lot of the boxers use them, and a lot of lads in the gym. But yeah.
Well, tell them all about it. As I picked up, it was Santini7.com, wasn't it, the website?
That's it, buddy.
I was thinking that, and you're more than welcome to come down the gym, promote it, no problem at all.
That's great. Now, he was telling us about, he's got the Get Up and Go, and he's got his business launched in the middle of this peculiar time. What about you launching your business? It's a small business, 17 staff doing heritage decorating, but it didn't start like that, did it?
No, I just started off as you know, Graham, just a young lad, many moons ago, and then we slowly built it up over time. So I built it up with numerous staff, and then when the pandemic hit the first time round, obviously panic stations. First few months we thought what was happening, but then it took off like a rocket. Everyone seemed like they weren't going on board. And everyone spending the money on their homes, so we did pretty well. We still are.
Now, in fact, I remember, folks, Stephen, because I first met you when you just started your business.
17-year-old.
You're a young lad with another young lad and sticking notes under people's windscreen wipers in car parks. And he came decorating my house. And he's now decorating my house again, but it costs a bit more.
Yeah.
The house is a bit bigger as well, but there we are. So you've got through this pandemic. And you're coming out with new challenges. The first challenge was finding customers when you got going, but what about the challenge now?
The challenge is now finding staff. I mean, we've got our old core base of staff, which are brilliant, which we've had for years. Brilliant, reliable, good tradesmen. As you well know, you've had your own house decorated, you know how good we can be. But we've tried to employ new people, and it's a nightmare, to say the least. We've tried to find young apprentices. Lucky enough, we found them. It's took about 7 or 8 months to find the right candidates after going through 50, 60 candidates. We've finally found 3 good ones. But employing other tradesmen, we just can't find them.
And that obviously means that you've got an opportunity cost, because people are ringing you up asking for their houses to be decorated. It's not just that, because you do heritage properties, listed properties, and castles even, and hotels and things.
That's the thing. The problem is, probably with us, we're quite a niche business, where most people go and paint a house. We're dealing in old traditional 16th century, 17th century buildings. When you're dealing that type of stuff, if you don't know what you're doing, you're going out with egg on your face. So you can't just come with the typical emulsions. You've got to know what to use, what products to use, what's going to be breathable, what's not going to be breathable. I've dealt with this all my life. I've been dealing with it for the last 25 years, so I'm pretty,
And it is, by the way, it is reassuring to have someone like that coming. If you own a house, my house is listed, and you have to actually get the thing right. And by the way, he's pretty good because he can spot all those farrow and ball colours. He knows elephant's breath at half a mile, and duck-head blue he's brilliant on. So
egg blue as well. Yeah,
that's great. So tell me what your solution was to get these new staff.
We tried advertising, that didn't work. We tried Indeed, that was just a nightmare. Job centres are nightmares. We went to the colleges.
Indeed is actually a good website.
We could get the right staff. Yeah, we could get the right staff off it. So we went to the local colleges, and Durham New College seemed to be the way forward. We tried a few of them in the local area, and they were really good. The staff were really clever. They managed to road test them before we took them on. And we got them from that way, and they're good.
Excellent. Well, I hope it all works out. Come back in the discussion a little bit more. But Ian, now you've just heard 2 small businesses. You have 1,500 staff, 34,000 houses, and what's the turnover?
180 million.
180 million. A very big difference in business. But when you hear these stories of startups and so on, do you still find it relatable?
Yeah, I mean, we face very similar issues. So we struggle to get certain skills, and when you're running services, you've got to ensure that you've got that pipeline of talent. Otherwise, because you can't let your customers down. And some of the things we do are, they've got statutory guidelines around them. They're about health and safety, and so you've got to make sure you've got a trained workforce. So we've invested heavily in apprenticeships and working with local colleges here in Darlington. We've been using a lot in order to get a pipeline of talent into the organisation. But we are facing pressures because there is a talent war going on, and we're having to change our approach all the time.
The northeast of England and Yorkshire as well, and you're in Humberside, Rhiannon, I'm sure it's the same for you. For years and generations now, we've seen our talented people leave. The classic in the kind of work you're talking about is tradesmen in Alwiederseinpet, where they've gone to Germany or they've gone to the Middle East or they've gone to London. But I sense that diaspora, that group of people, is starting to look again at coming home. Have you ever had any of that happen?
Yeah, and we have. We've had people a lot of people have relocated back. We've also had a lot of people go the other way and then come back again. It feels a lot more dislocated, the workforce. You've got to flex really, really quick. And sometimes we don't. I think sometimes we're too big. So you have to be a lot more commercial in your approach.
And you have a challenge. I mean, you've built this year 493, nearly 500 new properties.
Yeah.
You've got hundreds of thousands of pounds in the investment, millions in your investment pipeline. In fact, when you look at it over 10 years, I think you've got about £1 billion to spend building new houses. And finding this skill is absolutely critical, because if we want people to come back to regions like the North East and Yorkshire, we need to be able to house them.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, the need is through the roof, and I think there's often a perception that it is affordable than more parts of the country, but actually it's 7 times the average income in Teesside and the North East to buy a home. That's still a big thing. It's very different than it was than 20, 30 years ago when I bought my first home. So there is such a need, and we can't do it all ourselves. It's about partnerships, your supply chain and your contractors, but they're all really squeezed, and we're seeing that. So it's the scale, and it's also, rather than doing it 1 or 2 years ahead, we're having to think maybe going out to contract for 5 years worth of work in order to lock people in.
And that might be for a contractor like Stephen. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not trying to get you a job here, Stephen, because you work in a slightly different area, but would you contract in with a large client for 5 years?
Personally, no, too long for us.
What would be the downside to that?
We tie our workforce up far too
Yeah.
much. We need to be very flexible. We have too many clients to tie into one workforce like that.
But you're presumably out there making it work, Ian.
Yeah, but not everyone likes it, and it's quite interesting when we go to the market. Sometimes, I mean, it's been very highly unusual last year. You go to the market and you don't get any returns on tenders, or you get 1 or 2, and then you're concerned about whether the price. But when we aggregate, sometimes it's more attractive to a bigger client. It's just you've got to flex and you've got to engage with your supply chain earlier, we're finding.
Well, from bricks and mortar to clicks, and let's go to Rhiannon Beeson. Now, Rhiannon, your firm, Giacom, I'm going to give you just an opportunity to say what it is before we go into more general subjects, because it is a little bit of a specialist area for IT, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. So we provide cloud services to IT companies, predominantly helping them in sort of the SMB market. So we don't sell direct, but we sell through and help IT companies grow.
So you provide the infrastructure for companies that are facing the public or facing themselves.
Yeah, so whether that's Microsoft, Acronis software, security products, cloud products, cloud communication products, that's the sort of area that we're in. And they would procure from ourselves, and we can offer them a whole lot of services and benefits that they might not necessarily get going direct to the provider.
Now, you're based in Humberside. Now, you've seen some rapid growth. Tell us about the growth in the business and how you sit in the Humberside economy.
Yeah, so we've grown 30% year on year for the last 4 years, so quite rapid growth. So I'm just passing the 75 million mark, and it's still growing. I think we're quite lucky, really, so we've continued to grow in the pandemic. As everybody kind of went digital, lots of businesses went online. So really great growth, and thanks to a really great team as well, who've been there sort of behind the scenes, making sure that growth could continue and service didn't drop through quite a challenging few years.
Now, when it comes to recruiting staff, you just heard the two people in our studio talking about the difficulties of recruiting craft skills, but digital and technical skills are equally sought after. What is the market like for you, and how have you tackled it?
I think recruitment's definitely challenging, and I think what we've seen now is the whole of the UK has opened up. So like we were talking about earlier, you can now work from home, you can work from anywhere, and our cloud services enable that. But it has made recruitment hard. I think there's been some fantastic work in the whole region with the Centre for Digital Excellence, with C4DI, and some of the other great investments that have happened. So I would say it's definitely been challenging. But I'm not sure it was as difficult as it was to retain talent just a few years ago, when we were sort of having to compete with Leeds and Manchester and people relocating there.
Now, you mentioned the pandemic. Let's bring everyone in and talk about the government's potentially going to make some changes. Just look at some data. I'll just pull this up here. Springboard's back, the office benchmark, suggested that there was a 3.8% fall in footfall in regional cities last week. And this is as the Omicron variant is publicised, the potential for people to experience new restrictions in the coming weeks. Do you sense that the COVID new variant is going to hit the economy, or are we now sufficiently used to this that we're going to be flexible and we don't need these measures, the business rates reductions, the furlough scheme? Let's go to you, Dominic, first. Is whatever happens with Boris and the government announcing restrictions going to affect your small business?
Well, yeah, most definitely. Obviously, restriction on sports and looking after yourself, gyms, it'll definitely affect us. I mean, even the increase in ingredients prices now, that's seriously increased as the last months.
Yes, I suppose the actual supply chain and the inflationary effect on the product is very important. Rhiannon, what about your view? The pandemic has opened up opportunities for you that have stayed around as the economy's opened up. But what about if the economy closes down again? What do you see as the possible threat, and how would you deal with it?
I think from a business point of view and sort of the growth in cloud services, I think I'd see that continuing. I think our focus will be around supporting our partners and also supporting our employees, because I think what we've seen from the pandemic, it's been particularly challenging for people, and making sure that our employees are all sort of mentally well and fine if we're back working from home and those sorts of things. So I think that's probably the biggest area of concern for us at the moment.
Okay, when I hear the phrase work from home, it does send a shiver down my spine, because we work in a creative environment where people come together and exchange ideas quickly, and they stimulate each other's thought process. Now, Ian, you've got two different types of staff, craft skills staff in the field and support staff behind telephones and desks. How would any work from home guidance affect you again?
I mean, we did a big consultation through the pandemic, and a lot of people have moved to just working solely from home. So you've got about 300 colleagues who work from home, but they can come in, and they do come in. Then we've got what we call hybrid, so it's you go where you need to be. Then we've got people who, as you say, are out and about working with customers, be it an extra care scheme, or they're doing repairs to a customer's home. And what we try to do is tailor our response to those different working styles. The thing that really worries me, and it just touches on what was just said before, I think it's the mental well-being and that sense of dislocation. And I think people are really tired of uncertainty, anxiousness, worried about the economy, worried about work. And that's what worries me the most, because if I've got happy colleagues, they'll deliver great services for customers. And I sense that people are really, really tired.
And it isn't within your ability, and I speak as an employer as well. I don't know many employers who haven't in their cohort experienced some members of staff who have had difficulties as a result. I've experienced someone in my own family who's recently been diagnosed with Asperger's, and it has come about and been known because of the pandemic and the stress that person was under. And a whole new set of problems emerges. Rhiannon, is this something you've had experience with in your own organisation, without naming names, obviously?
Yeah, I think everyone's had that. This has never been never happened before in our lifetime. So everybody responds differently, and everybody has different mental sort of pressures, whether that is losing somebody that you love, or not being able to see people that you love, or whether it's the pressures of having a secure job and the rest of it. So I think, yep, we've seen it. I think we're investing in training our people to be mental health first aiders, and we're doing quite a lot of stuff to support the teams. But I think it's something that I would think every business has seen.
Great, and nice to see your cat making a star appearance.
I knew that was going to happen.
Very good. No, it's great. We haven't had a pet on Business Unmuted for a few weeks, so it's good to see. Do you have a view on this, Dominic, on the mental health? Because your product is about fitness and so on, and that is an antidote to mental health problems in some cases.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you know, I've suffered mental health in the past. I mean, the first and I believe the best thing for any mental health is exercise. It's the kind of medicine you can ever want to get. So any restrictions, especially like in the first pandemic, it can have a serious effect on people.
Okay. Well, Steve, let's go to you to talk quickly about the work from home, because of course you can't work from home. No. You've got people in people's homes, people in commercial buildings, painting and decorating, and it has to be done in situ, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. I mean, obviously when it first happened, we solely relied on external works. We went to nobody's internal at all. Everything was just, literally for the first 4 or 5 months of the pandemic, we worked outside, and they were going in one van by themselves. So it was a real, it wasn't a good time. It was quite hard for us, and if it happens again, we'll probably have to do the same again.
Okay, well hopefully it won't happen again, and given that the government isn't going to fund furlough likely because the cost of it, I think there's an incentive for it not to happen to that extent, but we shall see. Look, ladies and gentlemen, just one more thing I'm going to ask you. This is the front page of one of the newspapers the other day. The Bank of England warns price rises will bite even harder. I think it was Dominic that mentioned price rises. I'm sure you've all experienced price rises in your business, whether it be wages or raw materials. Here's a question for you, because next week the Bank of England has to decide whether to increase interest rates. It would be very unpopular to do it before Christmas. It would be very risky to do it with a COVID variant taking shape. But just because of those things doesn't mean it wouldn't be right to do it, because inflation needs heading off. Does anyone have a point of view just round the table? If you were on the Bank of England committee now, would you vote for a little tweak in interest rates? Let's start with you, Stephen.
Yes, I would.
You would?
Yeah.
Okay. Ian?
Yeah, I would.
You would as well?
Yeah.
Dominic, where are you on this?
No, I wouldn't.
You wouldn't? Okay. And Rhiannon?
I'm torn. I think small businesses need supporting right now, and I think that's really, really important for our economy, and we need to look at ways to do that. So it's not a yes or no answer, I don't think. I think it's a wider discussion.
Well, Rhiannon, I think you're very diplomatic and very, very erudite, but I would. So that's 3 to 1 to 2. So we're near, there we are. We'll see what happens. Let's see what happens. Thank you all for joining us. Can I just say, this is possibly the last Business Unmuted of 2021, because when it comes to mental health, my own mental health has been suffering a little, because I haven't been able to see my daughter. She lives in America. I haven't seen her for 2 years. She's been ill and got married in that time, and I've got the opportunity to go to America possibly next week or possibly after Christmas. I'm deciding whether to risk flight restrictions and go after Christmas or change my flight for next week. If I change my flight successfully, there won't be a Business Unmuted next week. If I don't, I'll see you next week. Thank you for joining us. See you soon.